So I'm joined by the lovely Terri from TW Tutors. She is going to be talking us through some of the tips and tricks she's got for home education that might be having to happen over the next couple of weeks, her opinions about what she thinks you could do, and what some great ideas. And I thought that Terri would be great because she does tutoring as it is at the moment, and she's also an ex-primary school teacher. But I don't want to introduce you myself. I'll let you do that all yourself. I'm going to leave you to it. She's going to walk us through loads of different stuff. And then there will be a Q&A later on with Rebecca, Daniel and Claire as well. So Rebecca's a secondary school teacher and runs her own company based around education too. And Claire is a Beavers Scouts and actually does everything to do with the fun stuff outside of education. So she's got some ideas I think you can do around just keeping things fun and having some enjoyable times over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to leave it to Terri. She can introduce you quickly and then we'll go from there.
Amazing. Thank you, Carl. Hi, everyone. As Carl said, I run a tuition company called TW Tutors Limited. We offer bespoke private tuition for all primary age children. And obviously that's all now online as well. But I'm here today to talk to you about all of the things that you can do with your children at home and to hopefully provide some reassurance that everything's going to be fine and you've totally got this, because I know you have. So the first thing I wanted to say is that you know your children best, so you should trust yourself and your instincts to know what's right for them right now. So I can kind of give advice and tips and ideas, but actually you know which ones to apply, which ones to completely ignore, and which ones are right for your children and which ones are wrong. So that's the first thing. Other than that, it's also good to remember that right now your children are probably feeling the stress that we're feeling. They kind of feel it through us. So just a little reminder to kind of be gentle and patient as much as you possibly can, and give them a little bit of breathing room to find their own feet as well. So that's that. And then the third thing that I wanted to talk to you about is routine. So there's been lots of people asking me about trying to kind of replicate the school routine at home. And if you feel that that's right for your child, then go for it. I just wanted to say that routines are really important, but so if there's something from your normal routine that you could do now, then do try to keep those. That would really help. So for example, I walk the dog to school every morning. Obviously the dog doesn't go to school, but the children go to school and I walk the dog with us, and that's something I'm going to keep doing every morning, even if we're not going to school, just because I like to do that, the children like to do that. It's just a good way to start the day, and it's something that's familiar for the children. It kind of helps them as well. So a normal school routine would look something like this. You'd have from 9 till 10 normally English, and then you'd have a break from 10:30 till 11:30. You'd have maths. Then 11:30 till 12, maybe guided reading, then lunch, and then after lunch from 1 till 3, you'll have all of the other topics like music, art, geography, history, PE, languages, anything else, and then story time and home time. So if you want to try and replicate that routine in your daily timetable, go for it. But what I would recommend is using this as a chance to do things that schools don't get to do, and use it as a chance to do all the things that your children love to do. So you can kind of tailor their timetable and their routine exactly to their interests and their passion. So you kind of get a chance to let them shine in whatever it is that they do shine at. So it could be that actually you don't want to do geography and history in the afternoon. You just feel like maybe doing some art because your child particularly excels at art. That's great too. I feel like this is a good time just to let your children do the things that they love, or even have a go at discovering new areas of interest like crafting, yoga, playing instruments, dancing, baking, cooking. And on that note, it's also key to schedule in plenty of time for play. So play isn't just for early years and key stage 1. Play is really important for all children at all ages, and play is the child's work that they are learning through play. So lots of time for play, board games, Lego, Play-Doh, anything like that. Playing with farm animals or cars, all of the basic toys is exactly what they should be doing. So going back to basics. What else did I want to say to you? It's also a good chance to work on growth mindset. So growth mindset is kind of a big thing in schools at the moment. And if you haven't heard of it before, it's essentially a belief that your abilities are not completely innate and due to inherent nature, but actually you can build on your own talents through hard work and determination. So that kind of school of thought would allow you to possibly even give ownership to your own child over their learning and allow them to create their own routines, their own lesson plans, and see what they come up with through self-study and research. So those kind of things, project-based learning, child-led project-based learning can be another great way to see what your child comes up with. They might come up with some ideas that you would never have thought of. So that's just another tip there. Another thing, mindfulness and well-being, lots and lots of resources available for those. So if you have a little research, tons of things you can do. One of the things that I have found amazing using in schools before is Disney Pixar's film Inside Out. So that kind of goes over basic emotions and explains them really clearly. And you can use that as a teaching tool to go off in all different directions. And again, you can use your child to lead that, but it could involve just a talking tool to talk about all of the different emotions and ways of dealing with emotions. It could also be a crafting tool, so you can create little versions of the characters and use them to role play with. There's all sorts that can be done with that. I know as well, because I'm a teacher, there'll be lots of people wanting to hear maths and English, really, really important. But again, my view on that is there's lots of maths and English that you can do at home with your children that doesn't involve sitting down with a textbook or a worksheet, or even trying to replicate what would be done at schools, but that can be based around projects or fun activities. For example, if you were to do a project at home with your children, teaching them to cook their favourite meal, that can involve so much learning. So on the English side of things, that's going to involve reading instructions, possibly writing instructions. You can even look at a grammar lesson around that, looking at different word classes. So that might involve verbs, time connectives. So particular verbs around cooking might involve things like boil, chop, cut, mix, blend. And then you might be looking at time connectives like next, after that, following this, first, finally. So there's all sorts of learning you can do with English that doesn't need to be sitting down and trying to replicate what might be done at school. Maths learning around the teaching the meal, there's so much that you can do there. That would, you could do weights, measurement, timings of the cooking. So asking maths questions like, if this takes 30 minutes, an hour and a half to bake, and I want it to be finished by 1 o'clock, what time do I need to put it on? If the oven takes 20 minutes to heat up, when should I put the oven on? All those kinds of questions as well. Then once you've cooked the meal, you can work on fractions, scales, division, all sorts of learning to be done there. So yeah, my main point is use this time as a chance to enjoy your children, enjoy doing things that they can't do at school together and that you might have been putting off for a little while, like all those kind of ideas, like the cooking, the baking. There's all sorts online now, like sign language courses, yoga, meditation. A good one for that is Go Zen Online. That's a really great meditation tool for children. Gardening, arts, crafts, sewing, reading, read, and then keep reading some more. Teaching independent skills, so little things like how to make a cup of tea. I didn't actually know how to make a cup of tea until I was like a teenager, so that's a good chance to teach children things like that. Bike rides, scooters, football. Just keep them active, busy, relaxed, happy, and the learning will follow. If the children aren't in that state, learning is going to be far too stressful for everyone involved. So focus on things that you can't do in school that children want to do, and then the learning can flow from that. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got to say for now, really.
Okay, Terry, I'm here as well. I just wanted to go through a few things with you then. So you have some great points there. I think a lot of the stuff around keeping kids happy and enjoying what they're doing is really, really important. You said about obviously working through play and how that works. What I think people sometimes are a bit scared about that thought process. Can you just explain a little bit more in depth about why working with play is good, and like what sort of things you recommend to? Obviously, there's working with play and Fortnite wouldn't be the same thing. Like getting them to go and sit on Fortnite, there's lots of different things that would be really good. Can you just give some examples of things that you think would be great?
Oh, definitely, yeah. So learning through play is kind of endless and so important. It depends on ages, but let's take a Key Stage 1 child, for example, and something simple like even playing with blocks. So when I say learning through play, I kind of mean like back to basics, back to basic kind of toys, Play-Doh, building blocks, Lego, toy cars, toy farm animals, any role play, all of those basic kind of toys that our grandparents would have had at home. Not necessarily toys with lots of whizzy buttons and sounds and noise and that does everything for you. The learning needs to be done by the child, not for the child. So let's take building blocks, for example. A good way to start is set something up. So set out some building blocks on the floor, sit back, let the child have a little play, see where they're going, what they're doing with it. Maybe you notice that they're starting to make patterns. So then what you can do is do one of the Key Stage 1 maths national curriculum objectives is based around patterns, so being able to build patterns, recognise patterns, and that can be as simple as doing building block tower with red, blue, but actually that can also go so much further depending on the child and where they're at, and you could then do more complicated patterns, you could get them to replicate patterns that you're making, and kind of go from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I think Lego's really good. Most people have got a bit of Lego at home, and it's such a great tool for such a basic amount of. It's good for maths. It can be used for sort of STEM-based stuff, or your science, technology, and I think it's a really great opportunity because obviously there's a huge lack of female engineers and things similar. And I think STEM subjects sometimes they get lost a little bit in the curriculum, and it's a really good chance for parents to get them involved and get them going forward and making these cool things that are available. There's so much Lego that's out there. Like we used to run a little Lego club and also things about making cars and making sure they can go down and explaining why they go faster if they're heavier. That sort of stuff's really cool.
Definitely.
And they love it. Like they really enjoy it. Like it doesn't need to be boring. Like science doesn't need to be boring, and you can do that through play. I think that gets missed quite often.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree. And yeah, I agree. Lego is, I'm pretty sure almost every household would have a form of Lego in their house, whether it's Mega Blocks, Duplo, actual Lego bricks, or even just wooden building blocks. There's always activities that you can come up with. Just a quick Google search, ideas to play with Lego, and there'll be so much to do. And it's that will keep you busy for like a whole day, if not more.
Yeah, definitely. There's loads of books available on that as well. You can pick up loads of books off of Amazon that are based around that whole thing. And talking of that, I think it's probably a good thing to the next question. There's loads and loads of resources that are available online. Can you just give a few examples of places where you would go and find resources when it comes to being a teacher and things people can use at home? Because I know you were talking the other day about no death by worksheet. It doesn't need to be death by worksheet, but there are definitely some things around that are good and you can use. But have you got some examples of those?
100%. So death by worksheet is definitely not what we want, but we can definitely use them in conjunction with practical, fun, hands-on activities and hands-on learning. So you might find them, print one off, do the practical activity, and then that will engage the child to maybe sit down and then do the writing or the maths, the actual maths written down after that. So on my website, I have not trying to plug my website, but I have got a whole list of resources on there and links to different websites that you can go to.
What I'll
So
do then is I'll share that into the on the bottom of this Facebook Live so people can find it. So when we finish, we'll pop that in there so everyone can see it, because I think that'd be
amazing,
really helpful for
thank
people.
you. Yeah, so there's a whole section on maths resources, and because it's kind of what I like doing, a lot of those resources are more fun ones, but like songs and games, but there are also other links that you can find more sit down learning on there. There's also English ones, and then there's lots of resources for mindfulness and wellbeing too, because that's another thing that I'm really keen on. I'm currently in the process of making another page on the website from this, which is going to also have resources for 11 plus, because I know there'll be lots of children out there in Key Stage 2, especially in Year 5, who are wondering how to kind of continue their learning ready for the 11 plus in September. So I'll put all of the resources that I use on there as well. In relation to resources, if you kind of just want a one-stop shop, cannot recommend Twinkle enough. It's amazing, and they currently have a free subscription for all parents. So that's a great place to start.
Yeah, Twinkle's obviously it's used a lot by teachers. One of the things I guess obviously that Terri, you're more primary.
Yeah.
Rebecca later on is going to be joining us, and she's secondary. And there's obviously a difference in what you're going to want to do with your kids. Like playing, I don't think most 15-year-old girls are going to want to play in Lego. There's also different things you can do around that. They might have their they might obviously have exams that are supposed to have been coming up and have been knocked back.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things you said about reading, obviously reading is massively important. Like if you're just going to do one thing, like reading is such a strong thing to be doing.
Yeah, I completely agree.
There's a lot of stuff about good text and like what's good to read and what's bad to read. I think obviously everything is kind of good to read. Like if you're just reading to kids, it's going to be great. But there's definitely like when they go to their school books, they get the level books. They won't be able to have access to that anymore. Is there sort of a place where they can go and find books that would be at the same sort of level, or is there, or like some recommendations you have maybe, or some good books for different years?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and I agree. Reading, if you're not going to do anything over these next few weeks, just read. Reading to your children, with your children, your child reading to you, even reading online. So there's a fabulous website called Storyline Online that has like famous people, like celebrities, reading out stories. Those stories on there are really good quality texts. So all of those, lots of authors like Julia Donaldson. Why is my mind gone blank? I've got all my stories in here actually. Who else have we got? Lots of the books like the Elmer ones.
You've got your old classics like Roald Dahl's and stuff as well.
Oh,
like,
definitely. Yeah, Roald Dahl's amazing. Yeah.
Julia Donaldson's probably one of the best sort of like modern story-wise, isn't there? And I think you can access most of them things online now as well. So if you don't have access to the physical book, you can still get there. I think also, Claire's just put here for us to see that apparently Teach Your Monster is Teach Your Monsters to Read is a good app. Apparently, not heard of that.
Sounds good. I've not heard of that one.
Yeah,
but
to have a
that
look
sounds
through.
good. Yeah, there's just so much out there to help, isn't there? Absolutely tons. And yeah, in relation to like the book ban books that children normally get sent home with, they are going to be harder to access, the Biff and Chip type style books. But if it's in particular, that's just kind of like Key Stage 1 anyway. So if it's kind of phonics that you're concerned about keeping up with, I would really recommend Jolly Phonics Online, which is it's like a song-based version of phonics. So we kind of put that on every morning when we're eating our breakfast, and the children now know the songs off by heart and they'll kind of sing along with them. There's also a lovely YouTube account called Mr. Thorne Does Phonics, and he's got some great phonics activities on there as well.
That was actually my next question. I've got
Sorry.
No, that's perfect. No, so YouTube's obviously going to be a massive part of how kids consuming content over the next couple of weeks. YouTubers that you would recommend, I think it's just as simple as that. I'm going to ask the same question, I think, to the other guys as well, because I think there's going to be a lot of different ones. So do you have any YouTubers that you think are great and what they're great for?
Yeah, there's so many different ones. So yeah, Mr. Thorne Does Phonics, he's great for Key Stage 1 phonics. I know lots of you are probably already aware, but the Joe Wicks is doing PE every morning at 9 a.m. and I know lots of people finding that amazing. Learning Station is great. Learning Station, I use that quite a lot. They have
There's quite a lot of, I can't remember what they're called. I used to use them when I was working in the school, where there's lots of like yoga based ones for kids, yoga for kids, which is supposed to be really, really good. And I can't for the life of me remember what it is. Maybe one of the other guys will know it.
Yeah, the Learning Station have yoga for children.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they do a lot of like mindfulness and yoga based stuff as well. For really little ones, Sesame Street have some amazing growth mindset songs. So they've done some songs with Bruno Mars, Michael Bublé, will.i.am, and created Sesame Street mixed with celebrities with growth mindset songs, and they are brilliant.
That sounds good. I heard of that. Did because obviously CBBC did a bedtime story series. Do you know if they're available on YouTube as well? I'm not sure. I've never seen them.
I'm pretty sure you can get them even or through the CBBC website. So CBBC have their website. There's loads of learning games for really useful ones on there as well. They're good. They're kind of more like if you just want. They're not the most educational games, but some of them are good. So their phonics is not too bad, and number blocks is quite good as well.
Great. Thank you very much for your tips. I'm going to add the other two in now, so hopefully they're ready to go, and I don't pull them in when they're not ready, and then we can have a chat about some stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So let me do that now. Oh, here we go.
I hope it was useful, and just the main thing that I wanted to say really is that just trust yourself, because you know your children better than anyone else. So anyone can give loads of advice, but just to trust yourself really.
Okay, I think we've got everybody here. Can we hear everyone?
Hi Claire, hi Rebecca.
Hello, hi Claire, hi Carl, hi.
Hi everyone.
I just do I'm not sure if you guys will know it. I know Rebecca and Terry, you know each other. This is and Claire and Terry, you probably know each other as well. I'm not sure Rebecca and Claire have met.
No, I've not met you, Claire. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
A nice mixture of different skills and backgrounds here, so it's really good. So as I said, Terry primary is mainly primary based stuff. Rebecca, you're mainly secondary, if I'm right. And then Claire is coming from the Beavers and Scouts side, the sort of activities based stuff. And I've got a little bit of a background in education, so I'm going to try and pull you all together. It's kind of the idea. Right, so basically, there's a few questions for you guys. I've asked Terry some of them, but I think actually some of them need to be moved across to the other sort of styles. So what I was going to do is just quickly ask, first of all, for yourself, Rebecca, when it comes to secondary school kids, what do you need to do differently to what it does with primary school kids? So what should their sort of day look like now?
Yeah, so
your opinion, obviously.
I caught a bit of yours, Terry, which is great because you were saying something about Lego, right? So we need to not be under the impression that because they're secondary, they don't like to do those things. It sounds really silly, but they are still young people. So I don't think that the day is much more different than it would be with a primary school child, in the sense that the structure still needs to be there, but obviously the challenge is different. And then we also need to realise that, again, just because of their age doesn't necessarily mean that their ability matches their age. So they could be 15, but their academic ability might be that they are, and I've had this before, you've got a child who probably has a reading age of an 8-year-old, even though they're 15, or a child that's 15 that has a reading age of someone who's 18, for example. So we need to really be aware that our children have different abilities. So regardless of their age, we need to kind of look at their ability and match the structure of their day to suit that, rather than to suit their year group.
And should they have that all that opinions and stuff available for them to go forward with? So like, will the school have already provided that for them to know, or would, like, where do they get their information from? So if a parent is looking to do some reading with their child, where do they get their reading ages from? That's probably a question for Terry, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think, shall I go, Terry?
Yeah, go for it.
I think I've been speaking to a lot of parents today, and they're in a really difficult position because, okay, we're in the situation where we all have to home educate, that's fine, we've got to get on with that and move on. But they don't really know the academic ability of their children. And I don't think, from what I've heard, the schools have had time to pass that information on to the parents in the detail that they need it to be. So I think that's where parents are starting to struggle with. One of my students just now has just had homework to say, read a book. Now, the parent doesn't spend time reading with their children, and I highly recommend, as Terry has said, that we read daily, regardless if it's a magazine or a newspaper or a comic or a blog online. We don't have to be restricted to just a book, you know, the traditional book. But I think because parents haven't got the information, they don't necessarily know the reading ages of their children. So when they're providing them with a book, the child might not be able to access that book, or it might be too easy for them. So I think we need to start having conversations with our children first, asking them what they like to do, what they do at school, because I don't know if the children have had time to take books out from the libraries before they close, whether they've got a book in their book bag if they're in primary. In secondary, we don't necessarily enforce them to take a book home, but we highly encourage it. So I think conversations is the first step that we have with our children. Ask them, are you finding it difficult? Create that open environment at home for them to start telling you what they find hard. So I think that's the first step, Carl.
Cool. Yes, Gemma's just Gemma from Dragons just mentioned as well that she gave her daughter some maths work, and she just looked at her like this is too easy. Like, I need something more difficult. So it is hard to understand and to gauge, but your kids will tell you pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
the right thing to be doing. Give your child some work, have a go at it together, see where you're at, and go from there. And now is a great time to learn all those things about your children and spend the time figuring it out. And read, you know, if it's with reading and you're sitting reading together and you think, actually, this isn't going very well, this is clearly too difficult, just scrap the book, go and have a movement break, run around in the garden, come back and find one that you think is more suitable and give it another try.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So we also briefly talked about resources and how what you recommend that would be good for the different age groups you're at. I think, Claire, you're obviously in a slightly different situation where yours is a lot more fun based, but also still bringing like these life skills more into it. Do you have some recommendations of some cool things that you've used for your Beavers clubs and things similar?
Yeah, so we can you hear me first of all?
Your microphone is incredibly clear.
Great, okay. So at Beavers, we have 6 to 8 year olds. So there's a lot of change in the ability between someone who's newly 6 and someone who's pretty much 8 and moving on. So one thing that we do is we plan our activities. We plan for the easiest form of the activity, and then we add in some differentiation. So we have steps to make it more difficult so that we can deliver one session, but incorporate all the different age groups and abilities with that. We also allow for children who might be on an autistic spectrum or ADHD, so we could shorten our sessions for that particular child or give them something more active to do. And so, yeah, those would probably be my top tips as well, is sort of learn as much as you can from your child and from the level that they're at. So at the beginning of a session, we will tell the children what the expectations are, what we're expecting to learn in that session. And then we ask them what they already know. And then we kind of gauge it from there. So particularly if you've got siblings at home, sit them both down together, see what they know already. The older one can teach the younger one, and then they're not listening to you all the time. It just takes a bit of pressure off of you.
Yeah, you actually spotted a really great point there about differentiation. So that that's providing stuff at different levels for the children as they need it to be. And that's like a daily thing that teachers do. I don't think people realise that, is that when you're planning a lesson, you have to plan a lesson for 30 different children, all the different abilities. So, but there's going to be parents at home now who are going to have multiple children at different, and you could even have twins who are at completely different levels. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter about age groups. There's going to be different levels. How can you deal with that? I'll go to you first, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think this is perfect because people are freaking out a bit that they have to create a resource for their 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 14-year-old. No, you don't. You can create or find one resource and make sure that it accommodates all those age groups within your household. So a secondary school student would love the fact, and they might not show that they love the fact, but they might love the fact they can read to their younger sibling, and the younger sibling would love listening to them reading and being read to. You could also create a resource where a child could design a poster, then the other child could write a letter, and the other child could write like a mini essay. I know that sounds really boring, but you could differentiate like that. So I think that we need to just relax a bit. And if we're asking them to write something creatively, just know that the different ages will produce something that's different according to their ability and according to their age group.
Great. Have you got anything to add to that, Terry?
So I like to differentiate mainly with resources and questioning. So by that I mean with resources, and I'm just trying to think what I would do with my two boys at home. So if I was to do like a maths activity at home with my two boys, I might give them the same activity, and obviously they're both very young. But the older one, I might give, or the one that's going to struggle more, I would give more resources to support that. So if we're doing counting, maybe the older one can use their fingers, but the younger one might need physical things to count. So it's the same activity, but just different resources. Have I explained that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So I think one of the things as well is that resources in a classroom, there's abundance available, but actually, like when it comes to counting, this is a thing, like people say, oh, you need all the counting cubes. You don't. Like I use pens all the time. I think pens is a really good thing. And when it comes to fractions, pizzas, like anything, when there's so many things that are available, and I read actually say you shouldn't really use pizzas. Actually, I take that back. You should use chocolate bars.
I was just about to say
I
that.
know. I saw all of you look at me then, like I was.
No, I bribe my 3-year-old with jelly babies. Like I'm sorry, world, but that's just what I do. And you count 5 jelly babies, and I can tell you she can count 10 jelly babies. Yeah, there's a bit of a problem in my household, but yeah, you can use anything, Carl. Anything.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that's available and readily there, and you'll have it around your house that you can use. You don't have to go out and get new stuff. And we already talked about Lego. Lego is basically a building block. It's exactly the same as a lot of the things. You can use them as deans, which are like the things that they'll be used to using in school as well. You can make them out of Lego, the little 4x4 blocks. Like they'll be absolutely fine. So there's loads of stuff that's available there and ready to go. I wanted to kind of get away a little bit from the academic side and go a little bit more to what you can do that's fun, because I think a lot of people in this group especially are going to be working parents. They'll have their own businesses which they just sit down and they need to crack on with. They're now going to have loads of kids running around the house potentially, so I need some fun activities which still get some educational benefit out of them that they can run with and they can play. So basically getting some ideas from you guys of some things that you can get them to do. If we start with you, Claire.
Yeah, so I'm going to drop some top tips for some quiet activities that your kids will really love.
Activities, a great idea.
I'm guessing there's a need for that at the moment. So straws are our best friend. If you give a child a game where they have to blow through a straw, you are entitled to all the peace in the world. So recently we got some feathers. We taught the children, we gave them some challenges first of all. So blow the feather through the straw, blow it across the ground, get it from one side of the room to another one, to the other side, or blow the feather and try and keep it in the air. But when they were trying to do it across the ground, they all had different styles and different ways of doing it. So you can then give them different tips on how to do it, such as get the straw underneath the feather, or get it closer to the feather, or move their body in a certain way. So you'll be amazed how long that can take. Obviously dead lions and things like that, but a variation of the feather and straw game is that you could cut out animals or cut out objects and they have to blow the objects along the floor. So a frog, for example, is a really fun game.
That was great. Terry, have you got any other ones that you might use in the classroom?
Okay, so I'm thinking not so much in a classroom, but the fact that making the most of being at home is kind of like making the most of project-based learning and allowing the child to lead that as well. So for example, it may be that you have got some seeds at home and you've been planning to grow them for a while. This is the perfect time. Get your child to come up with the whole project on their own, which can include writing, instructions of how they're going to, maybe a gardening project, for example. Maybe they're going to create their own mini greenhouse, or whatever it is for that child, what they're interested in. If it's a child interested in fairies, they're going to make their own fairy garden. If it's a little boy or a little girl who's interested in dinosaurs, maybe they're going to make a miniature dinosaur world, and get them to do all of the work around that on their own in a kind of their own project that they're going to lead themselves with, writing the instructions, doing posters to advertise it, doing signs for the fairies, and then actually physically doing that themselves as well.
Yeah, wicked. Thanks, Terry. That's some really great things there. Rebecca, have you got anything to add maybe for the slightly older children? Some ideas of activities?
Yeah, I think this is my thing, right? Because I think that education and learning should be fun and it shouldn't be boring as people normally think it is, right? So you've got so many things that you can do across all age groups. So we could do like the balloon chair challenge, and we know that there are balloons, this toilet roll, and then they're just running out. There are balloons, guys. There are balloons in the pound store. You can get them on Amazon. You can get the kids to blow up a balloon, right, and try and create some sort of chair within a time frame. So they can use the balloons and use it around. It's a fun way for them to get to know each other and communicate better on another level, giving instructions and giving commands and different ways of doing things. You could do old school board games. You've got Scrabble.
Board games.
We were playing Guess Who the other day with my daughter, and we were reading the instructions. She's got the little animal version of it, but there's the adult version. You can, like Terri has said, do project-based activities, which is a fab way to have like a project over a whole week, which keeps them occupied for a long period of time. You've got your phone where you can, I can't remember what it's called.
Heads up.
Yeah, the heads up, right? Because my specialism is about encouraging people to speak and listen to each other, and also be resilient and manage their time better. So we can do all of these things in a fun way, and they are all still learning. You might think that what is not learning is not learning, but it actually is.
Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely. I think there's loads of things that are available. There's obviously things like timestamps, rock stars and stuff that are added into the equation to making these things fun that are available online. And so there's so much stuff that's still offline that's available as well, that you've probably got covering some dust in the cupboard that you can pull out and you can use. One of the things that's come through on the Facebook is talking about the back to the pizzas. What you can use is obviously Play-Doh, like such a good example of what you can do, and you can make it. It's from stuff that's at home. Just you can make it, and then you've got a readily available resource which you can use to then go forward with stuff. And it's so good for cutting up, doing fractions, things like that. It's more fun. It's more visual. It's quite good for fine motor skills and getting things going as well. So it's got loads of stuff that's available already in there. The other thing I want to talk about was projects. You said about doing projects with people. We're doing this. I've got a 10-year-old brother, doing exactly the same thing with him, but I'm doing it around, because I think what people were worried about is that they might not have the skill set to go and teach like a maths product, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to. I'm teaching my little brother at the moment. I do digital, so we're teaching him how to edit videos so that he wants to make his YouTube channel. It's his thing. He's always wanted to do. He wants to make a YouTube channel. I'm like, well, you can't do that unless you can edit video. So you have to learn to edit video. So we're spending that time now doing that. We're using things like Scratch, so you can teach coding. I know a lot of the other people in the digital industry are teaching the basics of coding through Scratch and things similar. These are all free and available online. I think maybe what we need to do between us actually is we might have to pull together a nice little blog post with all of the resources that are available, which people can just go in and find, because there is so much stuff that's available for free. And I think actually Beavers and Scouts are really good places to see how you can, because they don't have huge budgets to go and make stuff, and they can pull stuff together from this from nothing and make things for fun. The things, you've got your garden as well. Like, garden is one of the things that's so simple for enjoyment for kids. Like, you can just take your kids outside and just do a little bit of exploring, making little things, whatever it needs to be. There's so much stuff that's available to make and create. We've not even talked about things like drawing. Like, if you want a quiet activity, just like drawing, just let them sit down and have a little play. Like, it's I think that you just need. I personally think you need to limit some of the time that's on the screen, because they're going to need some screen time off that time, and then come and do some stuff that's old school, that used to work.
Yeah.
Have you got some? So obviously you said about Scrabble and board games. I know that Claire the other day was coming around trying to find tin pots so she can make the sort of with string, so she can make the different stuff. Stilts, that's it. Yeah, stilts. Didn't really need those, so I didn't ask about it. But you can do that. You can do the can and the string and stuff like that. Kids, they haven't really seen that because they've not had it, because they've had gone straight into the game. So like, bring some of the old stuff that you used to play. But yeah, if you've got some advice about some stuff that people could play and to share, that'd be great. If any of you want to chip in.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, if you go back old school and ask the parents, like even us, ask ourselves to remember what we liked to do when we were younger. Like, I bought a chalk the other day and we did hopscotch. When was the last time people did hopscotch?
Yeah.
When? I don't even remember, right? We bought a hula hoop the other day as well, and we were just kind of moving around. I'll do it. And I'm like, don't worry, keep practicing, be resilient, you'll get there. But we need to remember that there are things that we can do that doesn't have to cost money at all. And you said like making a pizza, right? But they can draw their pizza, paint. Like, when was the last time secondary school children, I know primary school children still do it, but when was the last time secondary school children painted, apart from being in an art class? Like, we can do things like that. Do you remember those little things as well? I don't really know what they were called. Terry, you might remember these, where you paper and you did.
Oh,
yeah.
What are they called?
yeah. What were they
Fortune
called?
tellers?
Fortune tellers. Yeah, the squares.
But
Yeah.
that, like,
I remember
where
those.
did that go?
Yeah, children
Paper
love those.
airplanes. Paper airplanes as well. Like, that's a simple one. Like, you can just, because we did. That's, I think I do quite a lot in like the play time when I was at the schools. Is you'd make a paper airplane, they design it, and then they'd have races, and then they'd have to measure how far it went. So what they've done then is they've done a bit of art, they've done a bit of fine motor skills creating it, and then they've thrown it and they've measured it. So they've done some measurement for maths.
Yeah.
Simple, enjoyed it, done, tick 3 boxes, like really good.
Definitely. And there's so much, like, for every idea, it can be a small idea that you spend 5 minutes on, or it can be built up and built up and built up to a whole project. So that paper aeroplane thing, you could write a whole science investigation on that, where you predict what's going to happen. You write your equipment you're going to use, and you write out the process you need to follow. So a whole formal science investigation could be made from that, if that's right for the child and they enjoy that kind of thing. If not, this I just feel like this is such a perfect chance to do what's right for your child and tailor their education to exactly what they need. That's what I kind of feel on that.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, we've got lots of things that we use around the house. So first aid, for example, you could do a whole session on first aid where you design a story with the children. And there's a way to design a story where you have a piece of A4 paper, you write the first line, fold it over, put the first word for the second line. So how, what, where, when. And then they fill in the line, then you fold it over, then someone else in the family will fill in another line. You open it all out and you've got this really random story. It's a fun, great stories. So you can create scenarios where first aid might be needed. You can wrap bandages around each other. You can teach them how to put on a plaster, teach them how to phone 999 and what to ask for, and to answer the phone, to put down the phone, to wait for someone else to speak, just those key skills, and do role play and play with them as much as possible. If you're asking them to play a game, join in with them, like run around the house, be crazy, be like a child's TV entertainer. They just laugh, they love it, and they really, really engage with you, I think, when you play with them as much as possible.
Yeah, that's some really great tips there. I think it's just, enjoy this, enjoy your time. I think it's the thing that often the school system is sort of let down by the fact that it's really, really focused around maths and English. Like you have to, and it's got more and more so. This is your opportunity now to give some of the creative subjects that don't normally get the limelight they should get at school the opportunity to get some limelight. So your arts, your musics, your design technologies, your cooking, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't normally get to be used or taught, which actually is some of the most valuable stuff when you go on to get jobs and things, or even just living, like cooking. Like the amount of people I know that can't cook more than toast. Like that's and they're 20. Like,
sorry, I was going to raise my hand as well, but I thought, no, let me not.
So we're trying to plan a whole thing about we'll go outside, we do some cooking with my little brother. He now makes his own lunch. He butters his sandwiches. He does his stuff. But then we go out and do some gardening. He does some gardening. He's into korfball. He plays like basketball type stuff. So we'll go out and do some shooting in the hoops and stuff. And it's just, I enjoy it. I like going out. And actually my lunchtime is now based around the fact that I go out and have a break, which is just nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Chris has just told me there's a TED talk around this. Apparently, he's going to try and link it in there. There's a whole TED talk. This will be better anyway. This conversation.
I think it's really easy to think that everything is quite doom and gloom at the moment, but I'm like really loving this opportunity for people to be spending time with their children at home, and also the opportunity for them to know that there is a different way to learn, right? Because sometimes standard like education doesn't work for everyone, and you don't necessarily learn everything you need to learn. Let's be very honest. Like, I'm all for the education sector and everything, but I feel like there's so much more that we can teach our young people, and I think this is an opportunity for you guys at home to have the control over that. And it can be quite stressful, but I think if you've got a plan, as we spoke about at the beginning, and you integrate, like, it's not about balancing. If you integrate the education with your home, with your working at home and your life, it will work really well. If the kids want to work with you, give them something to do. If you're sending an email, for example, get them to draft it for you. Try and integrate and show them what you do, because I really, really think that this is the time now that we can have like the biggest impact on young people.
I would say pull in your local network as well. So personally, I'm not a parent, but I'm heavily involved in Beaver Scouts. And I would be more than happy for my parent friends to send me a web page about Mother's Day and say, Claire, can you do me a 5-minute video talking about Mother's Day? Or Claire, can you call my child and see what they've made today and just give them some positive feedback on it? Like share. You're not on your own, parents. Like there's so many people out there that will be really, really happy to help. And for me personally, I love working with children, and the idea of not being near the kids for 12 weeks, well, you know, share yours.
You can have my daughter.
I think there's what's been really great, and this group's been a big part of it, is there's been some really, really positive steps and towards communities coming together. And that's been so good to see. Like I've seen it in my local village. There's been people coming together and offering support. And I think the other thing to remember around this whole thing is, I know it's self-isolation, but at the moment we're not on lockdown, so you can still go out. Like take your kids for a walk. Keep to the 2-meter distances, but just go out. Like the National Trust stuff's all free to go look around at the moment. If you're lucky enough to live near one of those, go and make the most of it. Like it's free. Go look around. Go and spend some time outside, outdoors, while you can as well, because you might not be able to for a little while. So now is your time to go and take kids out and have a look around.
Definitely.
I think there's so much to community. Forest school is such an important situation where you can see it's working so well in other countries, and it's been brought over here. It's not been quite done to the same level, but Forest School has shown some really great promise about what's going to go forward. And I think sort of Cubs and Scouts probably have been doing it for a long time actually, and it's getting brought into the education system. I've seen it in schools now, and it does work, but you go to the Scandinavian countries who are at the top of their game when it comes to their education system. They're doing some really great stuff when it comes to Forest School, and you can just YouTube all of this. This thing is, I always think this is an example. When people think, oh no, I don't know if I can do this or not, there will be a YouTube video on everything. Like there's never going to be a YouTube video about how you can't do something. So if it's about how to make Play-Doh, for instance, you're struggling with that because you've not done it before, that's probably fine. I'm sure there's lots of people that I don't know how to make Play-Doh either, but I'll go and look it up on YouTube and it will be there. Like, and it's not difficult. I know it's an easy process, so you can just go and do it, and that can be a part of it. You're doing the cooking, you're doing everything. Again, it's just sort of pulling all of these resources together to create one session and make sure it works.
Definitely. I think as well, in relation to what you're saying, Carl, it's a nice opportunity to allow the children to figure things out for themselves for a little bit, because they never get the chance to in our current system. So it's a great way to say, I thought we could make some Play-Doh today. How could we go about finding out how to make that? What could we do? And if they come up with nothing, you know, should we read a book? Should we look on the internet? Should we see if we can ask someone to help us? And then let them kind of take the lead there and have that chance for them to take the lead in their own and feel empowered in their own learning. And also, I don't think it's such a bad thing to allow them to feel the feeling of nothing for a while and feeling still for a while, and let them figure out what might be a nice idea to move forward with. And children are constantly bombarded from all angles with homework, clubs, dancing, drama, go into this here, and just let them chill, let them be. And they might, in their moment of stillness, realise that actually being bored isn't always such a bad thing.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, I think it's really important. I used to run a Lego club. It's kind of the reason why I've been doing this talk, because I understand a little bit around education. And one of the things that I used to work for a Lego club, and I also used to run a Lego club. And my one was really child-led. So I'd go there, we'd be like, right, we're building cars today, we're going to race them down. I would give them no input. They would then just go and make their car. They'd make it. It wouldn't work. It would be around growth mindset, making sure Lego's supposed to break, and so you can put that together. That's fine. And then what we do is every time I give a little bit more of a tip, I'll go, oh, I've heard that if you get a little bit heavier, the next time it will go faster down there. That's how physics works. And then you just give a little bit of okay. So they know now that it has to be heavier. They don't know how it needs to work. They might make it too top heavy so it falls over, and that's fine, because then they can then be like, right, okay, that didn't work. And actually making mistakes, they can learn from them. But you need to reinforce that growth mindset, because kids, they'll get too downhearted too quickly if you don't do it right. So you need to make sure you're looking after them. I've got a question come through from Facebook, so I'm going to ask this quickly. Beverly Burns, she's asked, basically she's trying to work out how to keep her year 11 motivated to carry on with work. Haven't had their GCSEs cancelled, and there's not much info from the schools available yet what they need to be doing So how do you keep them motivated to continue doing work even though there's not really a certainty yet? But I understand why you would be uncertain in that time because they've been doing a lot of work and it would be quite disheartening. But like, what can they do to take it forward?
I think,
you, Rebecca,
so I've had a few that have said, can you hear me? Because I feel like it's echoing a bit.
No beer.
Okay, I plugged my headphones in. I've had a few that have said, oh, we don't need to do it anymore. We're just gonna, move on. And I'm just like, okay, we don't know what's happening yet. Even though it's cancelled, we really don't know what's happening. So I think this is from my coach hat coming on now. I think if we start to get them to look at what they want, so where they're going, because right now is not forever. We need to ask them to start projecting what career they might want to do or what they might want to do post 16, whether they want to go to college or apprenticeships. And that should be a motivation for them if they look at their kind of goals and their aspirations. That should be a motivation for them to keep going, but also just allow them time just to reflect and soak in what they have learned, because it hasn't been for nothing. They've learned a whole heap of skills and behaviours over the time that they started school from age 5 till age 16, and just really get them to look at what they have done well, what they're grateful for, and what this opportunity will give to them, rather than allowing them to kind of, it's really easy for them to think, oh, this is a waste of time, and we've spent so much time revising and doing mocks and prep. Just let them know that it's not forever, it's for now, and there will be like a next point in life, and we need to keep working towards that, get them to work towards their goals.
Wicked. I think this is actually a really good point for everybody to see just how much is involved in teaching. I think there's actually a lot of it, and I think parents are going to get to see that really quickly, that it isn't just teaching, it's supporting, it's mindset, it's all these other things that are based around it, just being a supportive. And I think parents are going to get to see that now. One of the questions I think is probably needs to be answered is what, because this would normally be a job for teachers, I think, as well as parents, is how and when do you tell children what's going on at the moment? So what age do you think they need to know what's going on? Because you said about year 11s, they need to understand the reason why they will understand. They would have been on social media probably, but they'll understand the reason why this is cancelled and what's going to happen and how it's going to look like. Some of the younger kids, obviously, they're not going to know what's going on. They're going to see this as a holiday. I'm pretty sure my 10-year-old brother, he's probably old enough to understand that, still see it as a holiday because he's not gone to school this morning. So what if you have any, that's obviously a really difficult question. Do you have any advice around when you should tell kids or what age? And obviously it's going to be different for different children, but any advice you could give would be that. I'm conscious that we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left, so if we could sort of wrap that up and then we'll put it at the end of it. But nice question to leave you on.
This is an interesting one. What do you guys think? Because my daughter's 3, and I don't think that that's the right age, right? But she's aware that something is happening, right? She's aware that things are not quite normal. So, and she does ask questions. She's at the stage of why, right? And I think we can communicate in a way where they do understand though. Like if mummy's sick at that age, she will know, and I will say, oh, mummy's not feeling very well. Why? Mummy didn't wear her jacket, so she got a cold. Why? Well, I didn't know why I didn't wear a jacket, but you can do it in a way, I think, and this is, you guys can argue with me on this one, but maybe like 5, but if they question, we can still inform them. But what do you think, Terry? Because how old are your children?
So I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Obviously the baby's none the wiser and he's having a wonderful time. I kind of wish we were all at his situation, but it's really difficult to set an age, I think, and I think it has to be completely parental choice. And again, I would just reiterate, you know your child best, you know what's right for them, trust your instincts and tell them what you feel they need to know. I wouldn't personally recommend going into huge amounts of detail and put your stress onto your child at all. So holding back, not holding back, but just doing what you know is right for your child. So my 3-year-old, I'm not going to go into massive detail with him, and I'm going to hope that kind of things feel fairly normal for him, and just explain the shops are closed at the moment because there's a nasty germ going around and we need to keep safe.
Yeah, and that's why I said 5, because they're at school age, right? So they will notice that there's something going on.
Yeah.
And so it is parental judgment. I agree with that, but what can you say?
I had to ask a parent yesterday. Their child came quite near us, even though we were 2 meters away from everyone. And I said, please, can you give us some space? And I asked the parent, please, can you ask your child to move away? And they actually criticized us for that. So, and I felt bad because obviously the child wasn't aware. So I think, especially if you're taking children out, answer their questions and let them know that there's this polite new rule in town where you stay this far away from people.
Yeah. It's the way you communicate it, isn't it? Like, why can't we go to the park? Why can't we go to our friend's house? Like, my daughter's asking, why can't I go and see grandma? Why can't I go and see granddad? And it's like they get confused, right?
Yeah.
So, I think Terri's right. It's the way that we communicate it to them, but I don't think we should not communicate it to them.
Agreed. I think the other thing, just to end on a slightly more positive note, I'm not sure if you saw the story the other day about the dog. So basically there was a dog, and obviously dogs have no understanding of this, and it's kind of what it reminds me of it. They have no understanding what's going on, so they just see it as, oh my god, my owners are back all the time, this is great. And he was so excited about it that he wagged its tail so hard that it sprained it. It's such a lovely story, and I'm like, it kind of reminds me of kids a little bit. Like, I think if you've got a younger kid, they're just seeing this as an absolute, like, this is amazing. Actually, most kids are going to see this as amazing, I think. Not being at school, I want you to be at home around mum and dad, people that they really, really love and adore, and like they're around them all the time, and make it the most of it, make it the most positive as you can in the situation. I think what Terri was saying earlier on, I think I agree with it too, is don't worry about the maths and English as much as you would normally. They're going to get this back. But the education system will get that. What they've missed will become to them at some point in their education. So don't worry about it too much. Try and get some stuff in there, especially if they've got things like GCSEs and things you're worried about a little bit. Try and get some of that stuff based in there, but just enjoy your time with them. Let them have a little bit of fun with their friends. I know I was talking to Beverly earlier on. She was saying that she can hear her year 11 son. He's up on the Xbox or whatever, playing with his friends, and they're all having a laugh and they're chatting and they're staying social and they're enjoying themselves. That's good. Like, everything's a bit up in the air at the moment. Things are a little bit doom and gloom. So actually, as much as they can enjoy themselves, let them do it. But yeah, just try and teach some of them life skills. I think it's one of the things. There could be loads of resources that are available if you need them. We'll try and put together some things. I'll try and get these guys to send some stuff to me, and I'll put together a blog post which we can use and put out. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
It was a really successful first one. Some interesting stuff came out. So thanks for joining us. And what I quickly get you to do is, if anyone wants to get in touch with you and ask you some questions, can I get you all just to share your socials or anything that you're happy to share, like emails